part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
Good morning and welcome to the Thursday edition of your favorite program on television, Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Ubebo, and it feels good to be hosting you on today's special. And as usual, we have 7 papers for review this morning. And of course, as usual on the program, we like to flag up with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership. Leadership is leading early hours of yesterday the world awoke to a coup takeover in Gabon, and of course it follows that all the papers are leading with this story today. And Leadership says Gabon coup, fear grips African leaders as continent descends into dictatorship. Gabon coup, fear grips African leaders as continent descends into dictatorship. Tinubu world leaders condemn coup. Gabon military names General Brice Nguema transition leader. We have the picture of Ali Bongo Odimba, the ousted democratic president of the country. And we also have General Brice Oligui Nguema, the transition leader, on the cover of Leadership. And of course, we have a top 10 longest serving African presidents underneath those pictures. We have Theodore Obiang Mbasogo, 43 years, spent 43 years on that seat. We have Paul Biya, that is it spent 43 years, on the seat. He's still the current president of Equatorial Guinea. We have Paul Biya, who has spent 40 years now in the office, number 1 office in Cameroon. We have Denis Sassou Nguesso, spent 38 years in Congo. We have Yoweri Museveni. He has spent 37 years in Uganda. These are illustrative designs by on Leadership newspaper this Thursday, August 31st, 2023. Today is the last day of August. Live parasitic worm found in 64-year-old Australian woman's brain. Live parasitic worm found in 64-year-old Australian woman's brain. The story is on page 6 of Leadership. I'm still a PDP member in APC government, says Wike. Shetima demands review of feeding arrangements. The story is on page 8 of Leadership. And I'm still a PDP member in APC government. Followed the story yesterday which made the rounds in some select newspapers that Wike featured in Bayelsa APC committee, Guba committee, and also in PDP Guba committee that is going to be in Bayelsa, that is going to be done in November. And Wike is responding to it, saying that he's still a PDP member in APC government. We move over to other stories. Reps tried green war over misappropriation of 81 billion naira for tree planting. Reps tried green war over misappropriation of 81 billion naira for tree planting. The story is on page 7 of Leadership. Manufacturers suffer 30% decrease in sales as naira crisis lingers. Leadership NDLEA drug abuse conference now November 7. Tinubu mourns as Nigeria's national flag designer Akinkunmi dies at 87. From the headline story, we move over to the Stand, page 3 of the paper, where we have the editorial. That probe of Kano Anti-Graft Agency. That is our stand today, Thursday, August 31, 2023. And from there, we move over to the back page of the paper, where we have Being Blunt with Muazu Eliza. Muazu Eliza is the group managing director of Leadership in their group, and he's writing on the trip to Rwanda. Presently, we have some governors in Rwanda for a conference. And of course, Mwazu Eliza is writing on that. Find out more and continuation of headline stories, inside stories on our website www.leadership.ng. Just before we go, we have Ghana Must Go. Ghana Must Go says Tinubu expresses deep concern over ousted Gabon president. That's the news. And guess what the reply is? No ultimatum. Very, very funny. No ultimatum this time around. So for more on that, log on to the website of Leadership newspaper at www.leadership.ng. From Leadership, the next paper on our menu is Vanguard, and of course it's the trendy story on Gabon military takeover. Gabon Vanguard says global outrage over Ali Bongo's ouster in Gabon coup. UN, EU, AU, Commonwealth, US, Russia, France, others express concern. While we sack President Ali Bongo, Gabonese army names General Nguema transitional president, places ousted president on house arrest. Deposed Ali Bongo appeals to friends for help. Rule of law must not perish in Africa, Tinubu wants. Holds talks with Canadian PM Justin Trudeau over coup. Jubilation trace Bongo's ouster. That is the picture story on the cover of Vanguard. We can see some Gabonese jubilating on the streets of Libreville yesterday during when the military took over, when the Gabonese military officers appeared on television announcing they were putting an end to the current regime and scrapping official election results that handed another attempt to veteran President Ali Bongo Ondimba. Yes, beneath that we have NISAA stakeholders to impose NLC. It says Kwara police nab Islamic cleric declared wanted. Kwara police nab Islamic cleric declared wanted. We move over where we current consumption Ikeja Electric. NNPP crisis. No group individual can remove Kwakonso neck. I dare anyone in PDP to suspend me. Wike. NYSC saga. Rise group sue federal government. Want Musawa sacked. Tinubu Makinde mourn as Nigerian flag designer Akinkunmi dies at 87. The story is on page 6 of Vanguard newspaper. For more on that, inside stories, their editorial and back pages, log on to the website of Vanguard, www.vanguardngr.com. And we have next this day. This day says Tinubu on Gabon spreading autocracy. Tinubu on Gabon in talks with world leaders to address spreading autocracy. Declares power belongs to people, not barrier of gun. Holds telephone conversation with Canadian Prime Minister on developments in Niger, Gabon. Ousted Gabonese president calls for protest. Bongo sounds sexy but doesn't work. Old view on democracy resonates. Stories on page 10 of this day. And above that, we have Wike, I'm still in PDP, now on national duty in APC government. Says he owes nobody apology for supporting Tinubu. There's PDP, declares nobody can suspend him. Reveals $800 million Garishi order hanging over FCTA. The story is on page 10 of this day. And above that, we have Lagos Blue Rail Line to commence operation Monday. Lagos Blue Rail Line to commence operation Monday. Find out more on page 11 of the paper. And above the masthead, Stanbic IBTC post strong half-year performance, gross profits by 121%. And above that, again, manufacturers grown as economic dictators falter. Again, manufacturers grown as economic dictators falter. Say Naira Crunch nearly crippled companies with about 30% decrease in sales. That's all on the cover of this day. For more stories inside, back page editorial, log on to the website of this day, www.thisdaylive.com. And from this day, the Punch newspaper is next on our menu. The Punch is also leading with the same story, development story on Gabon. And it says, UN, Commonwealth, others condemn coup. Tinubu warns of spread. Power doesn't belong to barrels of guns. Contagious autocracy spreading in Africa. Tinubu Bongo begs for freedom. Soldiers put ex-leader under house arrest. Whisk away son. NIN registration. Federal government records 48% of monthly targets. Kano to spend 800 million naira on 1,800 couples mass wedding. Page 8 of the paper is the continuation of the story. Kwankwaso still in NNPP legal advisor. Wickedest PDP says nobody can expel me. Marquis dad over 70,000 deaths. Stories on page 5 of the Punch. Cameroon dam. Federal government sets up temporary shelters in states. Stories on page 19 of the Punch. We move over above the masthead of the Punch where we have NULGE urges Tinubu to probe local government allocations diversion. Banks fire 110 top executives. Orders over 80 billion naira fraud. Vandalized pipelines. Marketers predict more fuel queues. That would be so unfortunate. Well, for more on that, on continuation of the stories, headline stories, inside pages and back page, log on to the website of the Punch, www.punchng.com. From the Punch, Blueprint is next on our menu. Blueprint says coup amid tension in Gabon. Crude oil hits $86 per barrel. Coup amid tension in Gabon. Crude oil hits $86 per barrel. Tinubu says contagious autocracy spreading in Africa. Promises AU intervention in Gabon, Niger. Junta places ousted President Bongo under house arrest. Namson streets of Libreville yesterday, and of course the ousted Gabonese president and this Gabonese generally celebrating Bongo's removal. These are the pictures on the headline of Blueprint newspaper, on the cover of Blueprint newspaper, sorry. And beneath that we have over 4,000 children associated with armed conflict in Northeast set free. Over 4,000 children associated with armed conflict in Northeast set free. The story is on page 13 of Blueprint. 2,670 newly employed graduates celebrate for salary in Yobe. Adamawa takes delivery of 10 Innocent luxury buses, rolls out palliatives. Adamawa takes delivery of 10 Innocent luxury buses, rolls out palliatives. Story is on page 8 of the paper. Beneath that, we have PIA, that is PIA, oil-bearing communities poor for war over non-remittance of 3% OPES. PIA, oil-bearing communities poor for war over non-remittance of 3% OPES. Stakeholders charge NUPROC to enforce compliance. Stories on page 6 of Blueprint newspaper. And with that, we move over ahead just beneath the masthead of Blueprint. Currency swap, CBN repays 5.10 billion naira, 10 billion yuan ahead Nigeria-China renewal deal. Currency swap, CBN repays 5.10 billion yuan ahead Nigeria-China renewal deal. The story is on page 22 of Blueprint. Nigeria's flag designer Akin Kunmi dies at 86 Tinubu months. Oshun, foreign dogs pull off 5-year-old girl from mother's back, devour her. Stories on page 7 of Blueprint. For more on that, inside stories, back page, log on to the website of Blueprint, www.blueprint.ng. And from the Blueprint, we move over to the next paper, Daily Sun. Daily Sun says anger, tension, greet military coup in Gabon. Anger, tension, greet military coup in Gabon. AU world leaders' orders rise against Bongo's ouster. Tinubu working president urges citizens to protest. The picture, headlines picture, we have Minister of Education Tahim Mama Imido with Minister of State for Education Yusuf Sumunu right after inspection of National Library Abuja yesterday. Lagdo Dam, Adamawa, Taraba, 75,000 passengers daily as Blue Rail line begins commercial operations September 4. Stories on page 29 of Daily Sun, where we move. That story is taking us to the masthead. Beside the masthead, we have Rep summon CEOs of insurance companies over unremitted 267 billion naira workers NHF, that is National Housing Fund. With that, we've come to the end of the Daily Sun review this morning. For more stories on Daily Sun, log on to the website www.sunnynewsonline.com. From Daily Sun, we move over to the last paper on our menu, and that is the Guardian. The Guardian is leading with democracy in shambles. African governments risk financial blockade. FDI squeeze over rising coup. Stories on page 6. Democracy in shambles. African governments risk financial blockade. FDI squeeze over rising coup. Of course, we have a map of Africa on the cover where we have Mali, Niger, Chad, Sudan, and these countries are under military junta. We have semi-constitutional monarch, head of states, and executive monarch, and is a graphic illustration of countries that have a military junta and democracy and or whatnot. Beneath that, we move ahead. Beneath that, we have Nigerian flag designer King Kumi dies at 93. Tinubu Oyiyola Mon. Meanwhile, other papers said 86. Why some say 87. Guardian says 93. Tinubu Oyiyola Mon. The story is on page 5 of the Guardian. We have lawmakers query agency for using 81.2 billion naira to plant 21 million trees in 11 states. Olatunji Dare looks back at the Guardian. Rest summon insurance CEOs over 267 billion naira NHF contributions. Nigerian doctors moving to Syria alone, the Gambia CMD's lament. Nigerian doctors moving to Syria alone, the Gambia CMD's lament. How traditional medicine can fund Nigeria's yearly budget. That's in news page 6. For more on these leading stories, headline stories on the Guardian, inside stories, and of course their editorial and back page, log on to the website of the Guardian, www.guardian.ng, for continuation of these stories. Well, viewers, this is where we end the first segment of the show, Inside Nigeria. The second segment is coming up. I already have my Thursday guest in the house. Don't go away, just stay tuned as we get prepared for the second segment.
Leadership for God and country.
welcome back to the second segment of your breakfast show on television Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Ugbebo once again, and of course, as you can see, I have my Thursday guest in the studio. He's a political scientist. He's also a public affairs analyst, Olamilekan Adefolari. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, and a very good morning to have you outside.
Of course, you're hearing it. No, Nigeria woke up, or the world woke up to military takeover in Gabon in the early hours of yesterday. And of course, is what has been trending since yesterday when the news broke. And all the papers are washed with that same story. So what is happening here? Because we saw that even the Gabonese took to the streets in the capital, Libreville, to jubilate over bongos or outside. Is this a welcome development? Because most African leaders now beginning to be trepid with fear, and just like what leadership led with, leadership says fear grips African leaders as continent descends into dictatorship. Now, is this the best way to go?
This is, for me, it's a mixed reaction for many people. For my own personal assessment, it's a mixed reaction for me, because as we speak right now, we can understand that the major parameter that many people can put at and say, okay, why those African leaders must be overthrown? Because of poverty, because issue of unemployment, issue of the underdevelopment of their countries or the continent, and also issues around the conflict of interest that are arising as a result of poor governance in Africa. But beyond that, we can also see there could be an element whereby we see that even the Western powers could also have influence, because in the past it has happened. Especially in Nigerian case, the military coup was happening after one another. It's as a result of the influences of multinational corporations that work in the oil and gas sector in the past that had and coup, especially when the government of the day do some things or bring out the policy they don't like. So in Africa, for example, as I said, the parameter is that there's poverty, there's hunger, there's unemployment, there's underdevelopment. But on the other way around, we also see an element whereby, because the coup is spreading, and it is spreading as a result of anti-France issues are being raised, or sentiments are being raised by these coup plotters. But the one in Gabon is quite different. They never raised issues about imperialism. They never raised issues about France, other influences on their country. They never even raised issue about unemployment or poverty. They didn't talk about that. All they just want to say because of the election. And we already know what is happening in African election. It's either the opposition is being influenced by Western power who are against the sitting government, or the other way around. But for the Gabon coup, I think it's a new development that we need to study very well, because according to some analysts, it's still fluid. It is just happening. It's a developing thing that we need to unravel. Why would this guy take over power? Meanwhile, they never even mention the reason apart from just election.
Exactly, you are right. They never mention
issues that bother African people. Even the people celebrating on it.
Reasons
exactly. The election as we see it is like it has been done and dusted. The president who is in power is like he has won the election. But the opposition were like,
but many of the opinion that it was the election was heavily how do you call it,
rigged or the malpractice. If that is the language,
there was no internet breakdown, there was darkness, no power outage, and all what's not, and even curfew was even declared.
For me, for the issue of internet, the issue was not the same internet, the same president that was using. So how come the internet was restored immediately? And
many people were
asking that. So do you mean that the military just restored internet immediately after the coup, or was it that the thing was existing? Just that, one thing someone brought to my notice is that when coup happened in Africa, we should interrogate it very well from the aspect that we can really look at the history of African political and economic development. And that's what I use Nigeria as an example. Coup in Nigeria has been influenced by the individual group organization that feel that the government in power have never satisfied their yearning. And the same thing is happening in this particular area now. Now in Mali, when coup happened, the junta there claimed that the government of the day was romancing too much of France, and France claimed to come to the country to help them, but rather they are not helping them. The same thing in Burkina Faso. The same thing happened in Guinea. In Niger, the same thing. But this particular one is quite different. There is no iota you can point to. Okay, these guys are making reference to France. They are making reference to bad. They are not even talking about bad governance.
Yes, they are.
But all they are just saying the election was fraudulent, the election was malpractice. They don't want to. They want to quickly put out any coercion, any unrest situation in the country. That's why they came to power. But we just hope that as time goes on, as the day continues to unveil, we begin to see the main reason why these guys are dead. But we should not rule out Western influence in this current coup in Gabon.
Okay. Now, what with this coup that we are seeing now, would you say that like many people, there are permutations that maybe they are actually influenced? No, this one influenced by Western government. What about the one that was ousted, Ali Bongo? Is it that he was not playing according to the Western dictates?
Ali Bongo has been in power, and again, the major contention of Gabon has been their oil sector. Their oil and their cocoa sector, which is one of the largest cocoa farming country in Africa, and as well as supplying most of the cocoa products across the world, just like Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Gabon. These are the three leading countries that produce cocoa, and Ghana too. But in terms of development per se for the people, where the people can really benefit from this particular government in Gabon, the people have not really benefited from them. But not to say that Gabon economy is not better off than some African economy. It's better. I can remember in the past that people in Nigeria go to Gabon to go and do businesses. Many Nigerians are even there doing business, and they consider that the country economy is even good. But the issue that many people will have against the Gabon, against the president Ali Bongo, is that his family has been in power for over 55 years.
Yes.
I think that's what they have against him majorly. That how could a family just be in power for over 55 years, and they will still want to continue to rule the country, and that's where they have issues. But on the other aspect of the economic issues, nobody has really pointed to whether the economy is bad, whether there's really poverty, whether there's really unemployment challenge in Gabon. But we know that in terms of what the government have done so far, they could be enjoying, the people could be enjoying, but in terms of what the family of the president have been enjoying, is where many people disagree with the Ali Bongo family.
Okay. Now, ECO has already had his hands full as he's been also negotiating over the military junta in Niger, and Gabon is in Central Africa. AU has to wage it. Now, don't you think that it's one battle too many for AU and
It is,
AU
because
at large?
very, very intelligent question you have asked. Now, if we go back to what happened in Sudan right now, Sudan, AU is still focusing on Sudan.
Yes.
They have even asked Egypt to help them to cover the negotiation. That's why the military president of Sudan is right now in Egypt negotiating with the president and negotiating with the opposition people to see what they can find lasting solution. The coup in Mali, the coup in Burkina Faso, the coup in Niger, they are all close to almost a year plus now. AU is still trying as much as possible with ECOWAS to settle that issue. But the one of Gabon has now come. And the one of Gabon for me is quite an interesting package. An interesting package in the sense that we need to understand why this military guy really took over without mentioning what others like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso talk about France. But yeah, they were silent about France. They were silent about imperialism. There was even silence about the economic issue in Gabon. But right now they are just making mention of election. And that is why most of us we have to query and ask, why is it that it's because of election you are coming to? Other countries are conduct election in Africa and military never took over. Zimbabwe just did their own over the weekend. But there was no tension on whether military is coming to power. Another African countries are even preparing for election as we go forward. Ivory Coast is also preparing for election. Cameroon is preparing for election next year. So we should not, for me, it's not about the election, but rather, why is it that the Western world are so much interested? Because the picture I painted before now was that in Niger, they celebrated because France will have been removed in the map of what is happening in Niger. But here in Gabon, we don't know whether France will be moved or it's part and parcel of what is happening in Gabon.
Okay. So as it is now, what is actually going to happen? What will be the action to be taken against the Gabon?
I think definitely they will weigh the option. They will weigh the option in the sense that AU will not rush, because when they rush by giving Niger sanction ultimatum, it never worked. They gave the same thing to Burkina Faso, they gave the same thing to Mali, it never worked. Now, for the one of Gabon, definitely they will look at the indices and what is really happening in Gabon. Is it because of the election that the military are taking over, or something else has happened? Because for me, I see it as a dilemma that AU need to crack, and that cracking that dilemma means that that's why you see that when the president Tinubu talks, we are speaking with all world government, all world leaders about what is happening in Africa, because there is this position that African will come back to the theater and become a theater of war if care is not taken. Because the Sudan experience, if you remember what really caused the Sudan experience, was as a result of we must take out al-Bashir. And when we finished taking out al-Bashir, we brought in the military. When the military came to power, the same thing continued.
That was what also happened in Libya.
They took out those Gaddafi. And even on Monday,
Libya has not been the same.
Even on Monday, Libya went on protest. serious protests on Monday because of some diplomatic issues with Israel. Now, that country has been in a mess since that time. So for me, I think the African leaders just have to come together, and just like other analysts have been saying, the African leaders just have to come together and look inward and find solutions to this problem of whether it is through election that this problem will start, or through economic problems that have been facing all along. But majorly, one of the things that we pinpoint to this particular challenge in Africa has been that because of democracy, the African practice, a seat-type syndrome of some African leaders is the challenge. Then secondly, the issue of economic development, that most African people don't even enjoy the dividends of democracy. And that's why the last of Professor Bade Onimi talk about that. If there is no development, democracy is a shambles. And that's what we are experiencing in Africa.
Yes. In
as much as we want democracy to exist in Africa, but the dividends of democracy is development for the people, but we are not finding it so easy to have development. And that's why people, at this point in time, that people are jubilating and shouting on the state of Gabon. Some of them don't even know what they want. That's what I normally see some of these people jubilate. Because at the end of the day, the same little guy will take over power. They will continue the trend of bad governance as expected.
Exactly, that's just where I was going to ask you from, because these military leaders or military junta that takes over power from these African countries, they are still among the people. They live among them.
Exactly.
And they will still have the same thing, and they also perpetrate themselves in power without even giving meaningful development in the country. So what is actually happening? What can be done to actually whip our, if it's so to speak, whip our leaders into line so that they can actually begin to give dividends of democracy to their people?
Exactly. Number one, we must agree that 8 years or 4 years or 10 years democracy term for a particular government cannot solve the entire problem at once. We must recognize that. Like in our own case now, it's 8 years, 2 terms. The problem of Nigeria cannot be solved.
4 years each.
So those leaders must recognize that they will only come in if you need to take 3 projects, 3 sectors, and work on it within that 8 years. Go ahead and do it and end your term. But if you think that you are going to stay there for a donkey of years, no. That is what
perhaps restructuring is a beautiful idea.
Restructuring to what sense?
Restructuring will actually, like many proponents of it, will say that it will aid development faster than this federal system of government that Nigeria is.
That is for Nigeria. Now, what about the other African countries that they are not as big as Nigeria? Are we also suggesting restructuring for them? But for me, the first challenge is this. All African leaders must know that 8 years, 4 years, 10 years cannot solve African problem. So if you come in and you say your own problem that you want to solve is power, target it and finish that aspect and go. You can also touch other aspects, but just know that your priority is power and go. But in situation whereby someone will be in power and say, okay, I must finish power, then I'll go to education. Then from that angle, he will begin to think of elongating his term. Because what really happened in Gabon?
With even Robert Mugabe.
Exactly. The Mugabe case is quite different because we need to understand the history of Zimbabwe. But the one of Gabon, what the mistake the man did was he now went and tampered with the constitution to allow him to go for another term after spending about 15 years thereabout. Now, what we are not saying that if you know that 15 years, your problem, you can't solve it. Finish that 15 years, finish that 10 years, and go. Then let there be a legacy project that people can remember you for. But the moment you start thinking that you want to do everything at once, then you will know that this time will not be enough for you. And that's when you begin to tinker around the constitution of the country. And that's what most of these African countries does. But these African leaders that we are seeing that have stayed so long in power, it's not even their making. It is the support they have gotten from their Western power ally. Cameroon, Paul Biya has been there for 39 years now. He's going for another one.
Leadership captured it that Paul Biya has been there for 40 years.
40 years. He's going for another time again. Now, ask me, who is supporting Paul Biya to be there? It is the Western powers. Who's enjoying the relationship that he has created with them? With other government, the same thing. With other country government, the same thing. But the moment that Western power feel that this guy has gone wayward, especially with the BRICS coming up now, Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South African group coming up now, you see that the Western power, they are a little bit shaky. And again, look at the numbers of African countries that have indicated interest to join the BRICS. So most of them are now finding it difficult to have that cordial relationship with those existing African leaders that have supported in the past, especially those ones that have stayed longer in power. Don't be surprised that if Cameroon President Paul Biya decide to join BRICS today, they will be coup in Cameroon tomorrow. If he decide to say, BRICS, so I'm going to be part of it. Not like Nigeria, they say we are going to be an observing position. And say, I want to, because even Cameroon too, that I say observing position, they don't want to join. But they think we are going to join BRICS tomorrow. Definitely, there will be coup in Cameroon. Even in Nigeria too. if care is not taken, but we don't pray it happen. If the government of Nigeria decide to go against Britain and US, the next thing is that they will instigate all manner of means, and before you know it, there will be challenges. And that's what has been happening. But many African electorate, many African people that are yet to understand the dynamics of African relationship with this Western power. Once we understand that these guys are there, as long as they are giving you support and you are enjoying the support they are giving you, they want it like that. But the day you go against their support, that is the end. That is the beginning of your problem. And that is why when there was this NSAS protest in Nigeria, a lot of people related to, no, how could Twitter, you understand, be so interested in this particular issue in Nigeria. Get it? And that's why the government went ahead and banned it. But we just hope that the relationship that will be existing between African leaders and African people and Western world will be cordial enough to balance it. Because at the start today, it's unbalanced relationship. They are enjoying more, and we are enjoying less. But the day we say want to enjoy like them, want it done,
and there will be issues.
You know, tomorrow, the Western world are still angry that it was China that built AU complex in Addis Ababa. Tomorrow they are still angry. Why? They are still angry because when the African Union asked them to help them with money to build it, they say, no, there's hunger, there's poverty.
Will do you expect the African leaders to wise up?
Definitely, we expect them to wise up. Wise up in the sense that, just like I pointed earlier, if your term is 8 years,
with what you just pointed out now, and with Western influence for all these things, can they ever wise up?
They will. If the as someone has pointed it out, it's like a spring, a francophone spring.
Like we had the Arab
spring. Yeah, you know, it happened in Arab too. It was as a result of those influences that, at the end of the day, who became the leader of Egypt? Who became the leader of Tunisia? They almost tried it in Algeria, but they failed. But Egypt and Tunisia, you can see that it's the same man that became military leader that turned out to become the president currently. Al-Sisi. You see the president, and he was the military general that took over power from the other one that they brought, the Muslim Brotherhood that is now late. At the end of the day, Al-Sisi took over as a military leader, then transformed himself as a civilian leader. He's not there as a civilian leader. You can see what is there. Now, what I'm trying to say is that African leaders will have to wake up. Wake up and say, number one priority is that the welfare of the people must be the priority of them. Take care of your people and make sure that you don't have gaps or lapses whereby they'll be complaining about poverty, unemployment, there's no job, there's no this. And again, the problem that most of these African leaders had is that the Western policy, economic policy that you guys borrowed and implement is causing problem. That's why it's like they give you with all that they use the other one to take it. Because by the time they ask you to practice this kind of monetary system or this kind of economic policy, in boomerang on your people. So when they, in terms of wising up in terms of you want to implement. When Zimbabwe said they are going to implement economic policy or land, returning lands to the owners of the real owners, it became a challenge. And that's why they put sanctions on them. So on the side of African leaders, they must be wise up in the sense that they know that some of these policies they are implementing will be boomerang on them. So they have to use wisdom to implement it. But if they don't use wisdom to implement it, the people will shout. These same people will instigate the people to shout. At the end of the day, you will be confused and you won't know what to do. The major thing is tackle economy problem in Africa. Why is it that after African free trade, African continental free trade, it is lagging? Nobody is interested. It's because of this Western interest. Because they believe that if Africans begin to trade among themselves and begin to produce among themselves, the Western world will suffer raw material. Then they will suffer patronage in their finished products. By the time an African man is producing television, is producing car, is producing this, and Nigeria is producing iron for everybody to circulate through Africa to produce all those complex engineering products. What do you think will happen to importation of those goods? It will die.
It will die.
So those are the things
and
that
Africa will not be a ready market for
them again. So that's why you see that after it's suffering. Even PAPSI, one of the Pan-African payment systems that Africa have introduced, it is lagging. Because of what? All this VAV, all this, what, if you permit me to mention their name, VAV, all this MasterCard, they are there. And African have introduced its own. Why are we not taking advantage of that? And the moment we say we want to embrace it all, then there will be challenge. They will begin to use our own local stooges here to say, PAP doesn't have the network, it doesn't have the West African country introduced as a monetary exchange among themselves. It was this same francophone country, Mali, Burkina Faso, Africa, that destroyed that thing as a result of when they were to vote. When British colonial West African country voted yes, these guys gang up and voted no. They even abused Nigeria and insulted Nigeria, that Nigeria want to use that to dominate them. So African leaders, take care of your people, look at the economic policy you want to bring, and let it be locally inclined economic policy. And that's the best way. People will not shout too much about bad governance in Africa.
Thank you so much for that. That was quite enlightening that you throw more light on. And just before we go away, there's another story I want you to shed light on, and that is the Petroleum Industry Act. Oil-bearing communities spoil for war over non-remittance of 3%. Okay. What are we going to have in our hands?
Yeah, I think in the news last week, maybe you saw it, there were 29 consultant agencies that will be helping them to get the money and give it to the oil.
29 agencies. Why are they so? Why are they so long? And you know what happens when you have
so much consultant, just like what we have, what happened in the
there's some money get missing in the process.
And the funny thing is that this although they are local companies, but there are 29 of them that they say about 100 or so, show interest, drop their EOI, the letter of interest for that project.
Yes,
so 29 have been sidelined, have been put down, that are going to carry out that. So maybe it is just the process that is delaying, but the money is out. But we don't know the actual amount. Since PIA was passed, we don't know the actual amount that has been gathered so far for this particular host community. But we just hope that the 3% will, I know it will run into billions. And this is more money for the Niger Delta community.
I thought the PIA also made provisions that the money actually should be given to the communities, not to.
No, what is happening is the community cannot, even if you are one of the community, you cannot go to
NFPC. But you must have a head.
No, that's why the one that have been given to their head, what are they using it for? Now, what they are trying to do is that they have gotten a consultant firm, a company, a finance agency that will now collect the money and take it down to the people and give it to them. They do a chief or anybody.
Okay, but you just mentioned 29 companies.
Yeah, that is 29. The 29 company will be the one to collect it from wherever it is saved and distribute it to the people directly. Individually. Maybe there will be an account, there will be a domicile account with the company. It's just like an insurance thing that you are paying. Insurance, when they want to pay your premium, you'll be the one directly they are going to pay it to. And that's how it is being structured. And the PIA allowed for that. It didn't give, the PIA didn't create, the PIA created a clause that it must be through official channels like consultants, finance houses that will do it. Not that they'll give it to chief. Because if you remember Ompadec, many years ago, it was too cheap. The military government were giving all the community money. But what happened? You see one chief in one village.
Police even declared the Ompadec chairman wanted then. We don't know if did he come back to the country.
How will he come back? He has made so much money. You will see in a particular village, a chief will be riding Mercedes Benz. His house will be most beautiful. Meanwhile, the remaining people will be living in Qatar and what they call it, mud houses. So they don't want such to happen. Although what I've suggested when I saw the news somewhere, I had the opportunity to talk about it was that the CSO who fought for PIA to be brought on board, they must also put their searchlight on these consultants. They must also put their searchlight on these finance houses. Because if they left it alone, like what happened to the police when their pension was taken from the fund and taken to, they say they put it in one investment bank or investment, a trust investment. Today, nobody is talking about that again. So this money, one of the things those guys want to do, the moment they say that the sludge fund come, because it's like a sludge fund. When they come, you want to make profit out of it, you go and put it somewhere and delay, they will take it to stock, international stock that will quickly yield. They can even use some of it to buy treasury paper from CBN, from DMO, from Eurobond treasury paper, so that they can quickly make a return. That's how banks make money. So we hope that will not be done with these people's money. As the money is coming,
because I'm worried, 29 is quite a lot.
It's much, but and again, the numbers of people that are going to benefit from this are so much. There are only still millions of Nigerians. So you can't give it to one or two, or else to make a mess of it. Because that 29, I think they are already structured. The state they will be covering, the local community they will be covering, and the areas will also be involved. So the money can go to the people direct, and that's the essence. So there is no political headwind somewhere where one chief will say no. I think the consultant will not be working directly with the people. But what I've said earlier is that the CSO should also monitor some of these things, and not just CSO, including NIT, because NIT has been the one making noise. Just like what they did that in 21 years, we have made over $724 billion.
Yes, there was a story that came out.
Yes, I think leadership also took that story, and we know what happened to this money. As the money is coming, nobody know how far. We only know that we have sold oil that amount about $724 billion. But where is the money? NNPC will tell you they are still under recovery. But we just hope that, for me, the total amount that we gotten since PIA was brought into spare should be declared so that we can also follow it. Because that is the way. PIA on board with NNPC. We have NNPC, NMPLD, NURPL. What happened to this host community money? NNPC have been telling us how much they are putting into the account. But what about these 3% for the host community? So they should also tell us. We should also need to call on them to also give us a breakdown.
And don't forget that apart from the host communities 3%, we also have It's not 30% from profits made.
From the the companies themselves. The exploration. Yes, it's also there. But that one will be subject to the management of the oil company working in that particular field where it's hosting that community and the community. I think that one it's not just cash. It can also be in form of CSR. Not necessarily must give the people money. You can use the money to do one or two projects.
Speaking of exploration now, that is meant for exploration. I think 30%.
30%. That's why I say they are not going to give them like a cash.
Okay.
It's going to be in the form of CSR for the communities. Like
for the communities still. I thought we were talking about exploration to explore more.
Okay, to use 30% of that money to be. Now that one is not left for the NNPC to now decide. Because it is in charge, NNPC in charge of exploration. They will now decide from this. So we want to do more exploration. I think part of it is what they are using. I think you must have seen in the news that 29 oil wells have been discovered in Cross River. Last week.
Cross River.
Yes. They are now back, although not officially.
You know, Cross River we had before.
Yes, they were legally taken away
from them by
about 29 have been discovered again.
Akwa Ibom.
So 29 have been discovered again. The news came out last week officially. But you know, more work will still be done. Maybe by the time.
And we also have some that have been discovered in is it Gombe
and Bauchi. So those are part of the money that 30%.
Even Nasarawa. I thought
they have done their own too. So I think that 30% will now be used to do more of the field work in finding more oil across the Niger and up north up in Nigeria. But my own case is that for the 3%, how much has been saved so far, how much has been collected so far is very key. Because if we don't, it will jettison the essence of the PIA clause on that particular aspect. Because the other unbundling on other aspect of PIA is now being executed, it's now being implemented. It's now the 3%. We need to know how much so far has been gotten. They need 30% for exploration. Then how much have they expended? How much have they gotten and expended in doing the exploration? Because even in Lake Chad,
what NNPC has to make is workings transparent, because that's the essence of PIA.
Definitely.
And they'll be keeping quiet. The only thing that we've heard is that they've not been making profit.
No, the issue is that the work is between NNPC and NUPR, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory. They are the one that will do that. But NNPC can only say, okay, they work partnership together. So where the other one work on the downstream sector. So we expect NUPR to say something on it, then NNPC will collaborate with us. Because there have been exploration in Nigeria State, in Gombe, in Chad. You get it? So now in Calabar, 29 oil wells have been discovered. So how far with that? So we need to be fed on the news of what's happening. But for me, this 3%, we knew how the people CSO fought from 5% to finally arrive at 3%. Although by the time the law is reviewed, maybe in next year or in 2 years' time, could be also be taken to the 5%.
Yes, because that was the fight then to increase it. Wow, thank you so much for that. We were almost run out of time, and it's been a useful breakfast morning with you today. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program, and I look forward to having you same time next week.